When you're a musician or you're in a band, you can what they call over-rehearse. That's when you try so hard to perfect everything that you remove what makes a performance special. You remove the emotion. You remove the fun. You removed what gets you caught up in a moment. You lose an edge. That edge is what makes a performance truly special and makes it cut through. That's true of anything. It's also true when you're doing a podcast. You can be over-rehearsed. You can try too hard. And I think that's what's been happening here. But today, I aim to fix that. So let's start the meeting.
Whatever you're going through, you will get through it because you're here. And that means you are not alone. This is the Meaningful Meeting. Now your host, Ace Cannon.
I've said it a million times. I'll always say it. Look, I am not a therapist. I've been to a lot of therapy. I'm not a therapist. I'm just a guy who's struggling with a lot of things and looking to do something each week that helps you. I'm really excited because we've got a couple of great guests coming up in the near future that I'm looking forward to having on because I think they bring a different and unique perspective. And sometimes it's exciting that you hear a voice other than mine sharing their situation. But I'm here just like you, as I've talked about many times. I'm here because the idea that I do something that could help you makes me feel better. And I am looking for ways to feel better these days. Now, I am not in a situation where I am at liberty because you know so much about me, my life and everything. I can't really get into a lot of the details because there is no anonymity for me when it comes to what I'm going through in life and what I'm dealing with. But here's one thing I've come to notice is that I've gone back recently and watched some of the old Ace at Large podcasts, which is what started all of this, which is what started the Meaningful Meeting. And if you remember, the Ace at Large podcast began because, well, there was a podcast, then it morphed into something very different after my daughter's death, coming up on 3 years now, which is still hard for me to believe. July 29th, it'll be 3 years since I got the call that she died in a car accident. And it was following that I started this podcast, kind of changed the Ace at Large podcast, with the goal being to kind of help myself through what I was experiencing and to help you through it all at the same time. And that's how this became the Meaningful Meeting, which was around that went away, then came back. And quite honestly, I've been very unsatisfied with it since it came back. I've gotten some very kind feedback from a lot of you, which I love hearing. I love knowing that something about what we're doing here impacts you in a positive manner. But here's one of the things I noticed is that this podcast, The Meaningful Meeting, where you should come each week to get something to help you overcome what it is you're dealing with, or at least, if nothing else, know, hey, there's somebody else out there just like me. Just like me. I noticed that what it lacks is truth. What it lacks is an honesty and a raw emotion. And that comes from simply trying too hard. This is important to me. I hope it's important to you. I want so badly for this to be helpful to you. And I talked about it a little bit last week. I have all these ideas. I have all these things that I'm experiencing in my life right now that are going through, and they're all caught up in my head. And I'm having the hardest time getting them out of my head onto paper, out of my head, making them productive. Getting them out of my head and just starting to try to turn them into reality because they're all big things. They're important things to me. They're special to me. And they're big swings, so to speak. They're not little things. They're big things. And they just sometimes all seem so overwhelming because it doesn't seem like any of this is going to happen. But you can't stop. And I want so badly for this podcast to be something that's helpful to you. And maybe I didn't want you to know so much about me. Whatever the reason, here's what I discovered this week about the Meaningful Meeting. It's not what it should be. And that's my fault, because I think when this podcast and its predecessor are at its very best, it's when I'm just here sharing with you and talking to you, and in many ways talking out my own ideas. And maybe I've been afraid to do that a little bit, because I thought what you needed was for me to inspire you and give you a path. Well, who am I to be giving you a path to anything? I'm a wreck. I'm a wreck. I mean, if you want to be here to meet somebody who's a wreck, hand up. Hi, my name is Ace, and I'm a mess. But what I realized was I've tried too hard to give you something to take with you to make your day better. Or at least this is my opinion. And part of me actually hopes that you disagree with this. This is my idea. I tried too hard to give you something that you would take and go, well, that changed my life. That changed my day. And essentially what I did was, there were too many notes. It was over-rehearsed. I, as the presenter of the Meaningful Meeting, became the band that was over-rehearsed, where it was too perfect. And we were worried about making it right instead of making it feel good. Because I think what I did was I just took the emotion out of it. Because I wanted so badly for there to be points A, B, C, and D. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. And here's what we're going to do. And we're going to make changes. And then somehow it's not what you come here for. It's not what you want it to be. And I got to make a change for that. I was so caught up in making it important to you that it turned into something kind of lackluster and devoid of the very thing that makes it all special. So I've kind of dispensed with a lot of the notes today. Not all, because I never dispensed with all of them, but a lot of them. You want to know the truth? Here's the truth. I'm a 54-year-old guy about to turn 55. I'm struggling in my life emotionally, mentally, more than I ever have, due to a variety of things. I've faced many challenges in my life. And when I was the most successful to the outside world, and I'm hitting the mic, I was the most successful to the outside world, there were still things behind the scenes that no one knew. Now, my role in all this, because you listen to the show and all this kind of stuff, and there are other people involved and so forth and so on, in my personal and private life, I don't have the anonymity to fully just so, here's what's happening. And here's what has happened. Yeah, I've been through a divorce and the death of a child and all these things. And I've allowed so many of these things to pile up on me emotionally that, quite honestly, I got to a point where, because these things seem to keep happening, and that I've begun to wonder, and this sounds terrible, you got to stay with me for a minute here, does God even care about what happens to me? As a Christian, that's, a terrible thing to say. But I've absolutely questioned why, when I feel like, and this is just my opinion, God may differ, and not in no way am I saying I'm perfect, but I felt like, man, why is my life have to be so hard all the time? I've had a great life. I had some great experiences. I had 2 great kids. But it's a hard life. I think I've told you before, I went to a therapist a while back, a new therapist a couple years ago. When you first go and you lay everything out. And at the end, I was like, I don't want to be one of those people that just complains, because everybody goes through some stuff. And he held up his head. He goes, that's a lot of stuff. Most of which I can never share, can't talk to you about at all. Just know it's a lot of stuff, even by therapist standards. But here's what I've realized is that I need this so badly. It's so important to me. that I was squeezing it so tightly, the meaningful meeting. And I was just trying so hard to give you something special and to make it important to you and that you would love it and care for it the way you did the old podcast, when I was just going with what I was feeling in my emotions. That I've squeezed the life out of it, so to speak. So you want to know, what's happening this week? What am I struggling with and how am I trying to overcome this week? It's a roller coaster, man. It's a lot. But here's one thing that I've come to realize. I've come to realize, one, I got to be a better man. And so do you. I don't care if you're male or female. I'll explain that in a second. I got to be a better man. And number two, I've got to rediscover things that make me smile. So let me cover the first one. Male or female, you got to be a better man. And by that I mean, what is the definition of a man? Historically speaking, the male is the provider, the protector. And there is a thought process that a man should not show weakness. Now, I don't prescribe to that because I think that's hurt the male species a lot along the way. And my point is, sometimes you do have to just suck it up and go. And I haven't done a great job of that lately. I've let these things drag me down, and I spend my time at home, and I'm a drain. I've got a pregnant wife at home, and I know that I'm a drain on her at times. I'm aware of that. I am not. When I'm not here on this show or I'm not out somewhere doing it, I can be a real not fun person to be around. Quiet, moody, very introspective, very sullen, very angry, all of those things. I mean, that's a roller coaster you don't want to be riding at my house or anybody's house for that matter. Nobody wants that, and that's my point. Nobody wants that. Sometimes, as the leader of a household, as the man of the house, I've got to put all of that behind me and go, look, I got to put on a smiley face here, so to speak. That's important. This is what I'm working on this week. One, being a better man. Just, not showing that. Because you know what that does? That upsets other people. It scares them. Being a better leader in my household is one of those things. Which leads me to, that change of mindset leads to number two. For me personally, I've got to rediscover things that make me smile. And here's how I knew that something was really off. The other day it occurred to me. I was coming back. I'd gone to Hickory, North Carolina, which is where I was going was about a 45-minute drive from my house. And I'm on the way home and I'm listening to podcasts, and it just clicked with me. I have just stopped, for the most part, listening to music. Unless I go outside and play my electronic drums. I'm not a good drummer, but I go out and just blast this music into my headphones super loud and play my electric drums, a lot of times just to get rid of the frustration. And I may watch a concert on YouTube when I'm doing cardio at the gym. But for the most part, I've just stopped listening to music. I realized I hadn't listened to music in my car in months. Virtually none. Months. And that is highly unlike me. I can think of one day in the past few months that I put on an album around the house. And just like, and that was for a couple songs. I took it off. So I've got to, one, be a man, change my mindset, don't express my frustration so openly. And that will help lead me to number 2, and maybe most importantly, rediscovering things that make me smile, things that make me happy. Music is one of the big things in my life. Always has been. Always has been. Since I started listening to records with my parents, it's always been important. I have conversations about music via text with people every day that I know and love and care for. But I'd stop listening. I'd stop taking that enjoyment. Yesterday, I was driving back from Hickory. Same place, same thing I'm involved in. I'll tell you about it later. And I decided to cut off a podcast. Like, you know what? I'm just going to listen to some music. What have I got here? Boom, boom, and I started scrolling through my phone. Bam, bam, bam. Hitting songs. Not it. Don't feel that. Pow. And I hit a couple that suddenly I could feel my mood lift. And then I couldn't wait to get home because I wanted to see if I could play this anyway. Play anywhere close to the song on the drums when I got home. And it's a band called the Dead Daisies. Odds are you have no idea. Totally cool. But they do a cover of Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival that I love. And so anyway, and it was just a reminder, man, I got to find some things that make me smile. I got to find some things that make me smile. And that's on me, which is ultimately point number 3. From my heart to yours. It's on us, man. It's on us. It's on me. I wasn't going to do this today. I wasn't going to talk about this because I didn't feel it. I'm tired. I'm frustrated. I'm aggravated with myself more than anything else in life. And I wasn't going to come do this today. And I thought, no, I got to do it. And it's made me feel better. Because maybe it makes me feel like I'm contributing in some, weird way. So I started this by saying, I'm not going to give you a list. Yet here we are, just winging it off the top of my head. I've given you a list, so to speak. 1, we got to be a man. Male or female, got to be a man. Sometimes you got to put those emotions aside for the good of the other people around you, but mainly for your own good, because you got to suppress that, be better, move on. And I hate the expression, fake it till you make it. That's what we're going to have to do. Maybe that should have been point number 1. Fake it till you make it. We'll just pretend like everything's okay and keep digging. Number 2, you got to rediscover the things that make you smile. If it's a TV show that makes you laugh, if you like to paint, if you like to walk outside, if you like to read, whatever it is, whatever takes you out of your own headspace for a little while, man, that's the best thing. And number 3, remember, it's you and me. It's up to you. It's up to me. And I tell you this, and I end up feeling like I'm a big baby, and like I've been a big baby, because I feel like I've been fighting all these battles for 20 years. And for all the great things that have happened, it's just always been a struggle. There's never been a time of complete peace. Now, maybe that's my own flawed perception in many ways. But I believe I have enough documented research, so to speak, to back me up. But that doesn't matter, because All that's in the past and I can't change it. Neither can you. I gotta fake it till I make it. I gotta remember the joy of music and how that makes me feel better at times. And try to seek that out, try to find that. And remember that it's on me. I gotta dig in and do the work. I gotta make myself better. I gotta be better for my wife. I've gotta be better for my child. I gotta be better for my son, who still at 20 needs direction, needs advice. And I can honestly tell you that this time, that's real, man. That's not anything that was written down in front of me. That's not a bunch of notes that I squeezed the life out of. That's just me from the bottom of my heart. And I hope it has an impact on you. I hope it means something to you, because that's why I'm here. Final 5 minutes is next.
There's more of the Meaningful Meeting next. This is the one meeting that reminds you each week that you are not alone. This is the Meaningful Meeting with Ace Cannon.
So we've talked about a lot of stuff today when it comes to what it takes to keep moving forward, and I reiterate, you got to be a man, fake it till you make it. However you want to phrase it, you got to suppress some of those feelings, keep pretending like everything's okay to a certain extent, and keep digging. Number 2, rediscover those things that you love. And number 3, remember, it's just you. You're the only one that's going to make it. Boy, but that doesn't mean that things don't happen from time to time. And it's okay, because one of the things that I find most frightening would be to lose a part of that emotion, since we're kind of talking about emotion, that comes with whatever you've experienced in your life. Let's take 2 big things. We're coming up on Mother's Day. It'll be my first Mother's Day without my mom, who died in September. It will also be the first Mother's Day for my wife as a pregnant mom to be. And we're also quickly approaching my daughter's, would have been, 24th birthday. And 3 weeks after that, the 3-year anniversary of her death. And I know people try to suppress those feelings. Let's take Peyton's death, for example. People try to say, I just don't think about it. I don't feel it. And I do. I feel it all the time. There's not a day that goes by, not a single day, that I don't think of her 10 times. I watched a movie the other night, and there's a wedding scene in the movie. And the father approaches the daughter, and immediately they're going to walk down the aisle. And I just, because I think about that moment I'll never have. Now, why is that important? Because by the same token, I have surrounded myself with physical reminders of her and her love. And I think that's important. You don't forget her. You don't move on and leave them behind. You're going to have those emotions. You're going to have that emotion of loss. It's going to happen from time to time, whatever it is. Whatever you're going through right now, you're going to have those emotions are going to be there. But without those emotions, you wouldn't have the things that make you smile, the joy. The battle for someone in my situation with my daughter's loss, the battle is not allowing the end to overwhelm all of the good. That's the fight that you fight I think for anybody who has a child that dies, is the fact that child who was everything is suddenly taken from you. And you can't let that overwhelm the 10 million times that kid made you smile, that child made you laugh. And that's why I keep notes. That's why if you saw our live from the living room last week, there's a memory board that was in Peyton's apartment that I took out intact. I do not ever want it to change. I don't want to add anything to it. I don't want to take anything away. Because it's in my office, and there are two things in there right next to each other that came from her apartment. One is this memory board, because I can look at it and know these were the things that were special to her when she died. And that makes, it's got pictures, it's got concert tickets on it, it's got a couple notes that I'd written to her that are stuck on there. It's got her laminate pass from the night we debuted the song about her, Maggie Made Dreams, in the video, which meant the world to her. So I have this reminder, in a way, a living reminder to me that it was important, that I was special to her. And right above it, there is a little chalkboard. It's a little square chalkboard about like this. I don't know why. I don't know what the thought process was, but in chalk, she wrote on it. It's got a white frame around the edge of it. She had written in white chalk, "That's showbiz, baby." I don't know what that means, but that's her. And those things are there not because they make me sad, quite the opposite. Because they're physical reminders of what I love. They're a physical reminder of how special she will always be in my life. And it makes me feel so good to be able to see them and touch them and know they're there. So I would say to you, those good things in life that you love, something physical, something your fingertips can touch, something you can see with your own eyes. Find that thing. Because having a physical reminder of what you love, to see, to touch, to feel, to know it's there, to know that in a moment when the world is swirling around you and it feels like everything is going wrong, all you've got to do is turn, and there's that thing that suddenly centers you. You know, when I get depressed about Peyton dying and I feel overwhelmed by this sense of loss, this still happens regularly, almost 3 years later. And the guilt that goes with that, the guilt that every parent who has a child that dies feels. And I'm standing in that room, and I can walk in that room, and I can turn. I know exactly where it is. And I can see her. I can see her handwriting. I can see her pictures. I can see the special people in her life. I can see her thoughts. I can see her emotions. I can see what was important to her in that moment, right there. That's all her. And that's my physical reminder that I was her dude. And that saves the day. I don't know if that helps you or not. But I do know that if you'll just hang in there, you'll keep coming back here every week. We'll keep digging. I'll get better. You'll get better. And one day you will tell your story of how you've overcome what you're going through right now. And it will become a part of someone else's survival guide. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. That's the whole goal to be here. And that's the most special thing I can think of. So hopefully, I'll see you again here next week.
Now, whatever you're going through, you're not alone. You are a part of the Meaningful Meeting, presented by the Radio Network. Copyright ATJ Inc. 2022.